Hello, everybody. This is Bart Sharp with Becoming Quantum Conscious on United Public Radio Network, UPNRN, and UFO Paranormal Network, and from the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. And here at UPRN, we are in Austin, Texas, and yes, it is warm. I have returned to France, back to beautiful, lovely Austin. And today, I have a fellow Austinite and friend, Neil Dumra.
Hello.
And Neil and I have done a show before and hope to do shows in the future on the theme of superhuman living. And in this day and age, there's a lot of adversity around us, whether that be the EMFs, electrical, high stress, traffic, GMOs, and the list goes on and on and on. And it's wonderful to have some people who are proactive, who have invented things that give people very good health and also are right in the middle of the know of what is out there that helps your health. And I, for one, am one of those people that met Neil about 2 years ago
Yeah.
and was walking around with a limp and had all of this inflammation in my knees and feet that I can never cure. And Neil has given me tons of things that has at times cured it and at other times has lessened it to where I live a very pain-free life, which is, if you're in pain, you know how unfun and how challenging that is. And so I am always very grateful for Neil.
Thank you. Appreciate being able to serve and share my knowledge and gifts, and everything I've learned has been through my own experience. I'm a lab in itself and always testing ways in which we can optimize. So thank you.
Yes, and the dedication is very strong. Neil has owned a business called the Third Eye Meditation Lounge. Only in Austin would you get a place called the Third Eye Meditation Lounge that has now lounges throughout the United States, selling the products that he knows and loves, and has invented all of these great concoctions. A very passionate person, and I guess the main thing is cacao that you.
Yeah. We started with ceremonial cacao. It was something that helped me open up my heart through my own experiences, through my own trauma, and helped me activate the oxytocin, the love that I wasn't able to feel within myself. So yeah, cacao is where we started, and we've got all sorts of amazing ways in which we can feel, heal, reduce inflammation, get into blood flow, which we are blood beings, and it's really important when we cleanse that. It makes life just so much easier.
It does, and it's so fascinating that we are working with real physical things like cacao, a medicine that comes from a little cacao bean. And of course, you get chocolate from that. But could you just explain medicine grade cacao just real quick?
Sure. So ceremonial cacao comes from various places in the world, mostly from South America. And there is created from it with a different intention, not to commercialize or mass produce, but to have a permaculture and soil importance. So the actual soil, the actual people, and the whole intention around it is to create medicine. And it's not just cacao. It's having various different fruits and vegetables and symbiotic life force superfoods that help make the cacao also beautiful and medicinal.
Yes, and as you mentioned before, there's a process of these axal physical things repair and heal the emotional aspects of who we are. That it's a part of that process, and there's many things in that, but as so many of us in the United States and all over the world are looking for that integration and wholeness. And it's wonderful that this is an important part of it, is finding those things that the earth creates and grows. And some of these things in the medicine field are very special.
And not only that, it's the sacredness. It's when the intention, the purity, the consciousness is in the cacao itself. And when you ingest it and set your intentions, it brings you into a ceremony. It brings you
Yes.
into a space where you can feel your heart. And that's the whole deal here. It's the more you feel, the more you heal, the more you're able to integrate and process. And our emotions and our body keeps the score. So it's really important that we feel it all.
Yes, and it's even beyond ceremonial. You can have it as a morning drink instead of a cup of coffee.
100%. It's alkaline. And if you drink it every day for a month, it'll literally double your stem cells in your body. Cardiologists have proven this. And it's a beautiful thing. I myself used to be 100 pounds heavier, and my body, my soul, my heart has become transformed through the medicine that is cacao.
Exactly. And so I've been doing this for about 6 months now. Neil was watching me drink coffee and goes, "You've been doing this for how many years? And how is that really working for you?" And I'm going, "Well, I guess I'm addicted to it." And it's like, "Well, would you like to change that addiction?" And so, yes, I went on the cacao train and it's changed my life. Also, it seems like those of us who drink cacao regularly do not seem to need so many other foods to keep us filled because it fills us in a very special way.
100%. It's like this thing where we have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and it's almost like homework versus needing to actually fulfill our nutritional needs. And the more we're able to have that intermittent fasting, lymphatic cleansing, and able to have more liquids that have nutrients that are nutrient dense, that allows our body to have a better absorption of all these things. So that's mostly what it is, density.
Exactly.
hmm
It's so wonderful. And it just keeps growing. And just in case you're not in Austin, Texas, or not in one of the cities that a Third Eye Meditation Lounge is, you can still go on the website at that would be a third eye meditationlounge.com and order your supplies there.
And the actual website for the cacao is thirdeyecacao.com. There's also a link on Third Eye Meditation Lounge, which is our brick and mortar in Austin.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, it's a wonderful place to visit. It's all bright and cheerful and
Mhm.
stuff, just like the Third Eye Meditation Lounge in Austin. You know, as you've told me, it's more of a community uh, as instead of a cacao shop or a restaurant. It's where people gather and be. It's
Mhm.
so wonderful part of superhuman living, and that we expand out into a social community. And one of the things we were going to talk about today, which really helps us develop, um, and before I even say that, I'm going to hold the tension here. I just want to tell you, if you do have questions for Neil about health in general, or cacao, or um, proactive medicine, as I like to call it, uh, please join the chat and send a question,
Yeah,
comment. We'd love to answer any of that.
amazing.
But also, something you've been really enthusiastic about is the vagal nerve.
hmm Yeah, I just recently was trained in something called TVM, which is the triple vagal method. And what this is a form of being able to heal the trauma with these exercises that basically help develop vagal tone. And the more vagal tone we have, the more resilience we have, and the more we're able to process our emotions and get into a place where we're in a healing state. And I can talk more about that. Most importantly, it's about our nervous system and our fascia. And literally, trauma is something that the whole human collective has in some sort, in some level. And there's no comparison to one trauma or the other. It's about being able to face it and meet it. And when you meet it, you're no longer holding that space for it in your body. And the more oxytocin we're able to produce, which is love, the more we're able to love on ourselves when we weren't able to process something or feel safe in an environment or a situation.
And for those who do not know what oxytocin is, it is a pheromone that the mother and child share together. And this is a crucial part of development. And sometimes we do not get enough, but also it's something that we, as adults, really need to foster and nourish.
Yeah.
So it's always being transmitted through various tones. And some of us really need to focus on that because it was missing during childhood and being doing shamanic work with people. I sense this in people, and it's almost like a missing ingredient, like a component. And some people think it would be impossible to fill these needs, but we're finding there's techniques like the polyvagal techniques that nourish the vagus nerve. So, what is the vagus nerve?
So the vagus nerve is like the main vein that goes all the way through. It's like our middle. You can see it sometimes in the forehead, and it's basically going all the way through, all the way to the sacrum. And it's the way I like to see it is every day when we wake up with the sun and we go to bed with the moon, we're always trying to heal. Every single human is trying to process. And when we have more vagal tone, we're able to feel and process this stuff without leaning onto the past and ruminating or trying to go to the future without bypassing what has happened. And the more oxytocin we have, the more our nerves, the more our embodiment starts to activate. And with more oxytocin, we feel more safe, we feel more loved, we feel more secure, and we're more in our happy spaces. And so developing that vagal tone, it's basically tapping into some of that pain and finding that safety through the fascia and nervous system co-regulation. So when we touch, we love, we hug, we're always sharing oxytocin. And then having someone like me who's been a trained practitioner was able to self-regulate and then also share my fascia, my nervous system, and co-regulate with somebody to help process that.
Yeah, and things like touch and love and hugs and stuff, to me, are kind of like almost like band-aids. It's like it gets to the periphery. However, when you get down to the core of if you really feel like you really need to heal some deeper stuff, going directly into that nervous system in a deep way is one of the best techniques and tools to really transform that. And I do want to add in here that you are on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, and you can catch the show on YouTube if you wish to chat. Just go to my name, Bart Sharp, and also you can check in with our television show on Roku and see this on your television. And just wanted to throw that in there and totally distract the conversation a little bit. But the vagal nerve techniques where you directly go into that, you have been working with the people.
Yeah, I'll just share a little bit of what I've experienced. So there's various ways of healing, and a lot of what's out there right now isn't quantum. It's more of the superficial healing. So it's like we're touching it, we're getting to it, but we're actually sometimes being re-traumatized because we're not able to fully feel safe in moving through the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And so trauma, a lot of times when we're in that state or in a traumatic situation, we go into fight or flight, freeze or fawn, and our nervous system goes into different states. And the three states that we go through is dorsal, sympathetic, and the last one.
Parasympathetic?
No, actually, let me just, it's, 1 second. It is ventral, which is the safe and social, sympathetic, which is fight or flight, and dorsal, which is shut down.
Ah.
So in those three states, all we're doing is trying to protect ourselves because we don't know if we're going to survive. Once we are safe fully, like we're in the womb, which is what the process is like, is holding that kind of deep space.
So the womb would be connecting with the vagal nerve and nourishing and doing some direct interaction with it.
Exactly. Stimulating it and also finding where the trauma is and actually shaking it out of the body.
Wow.
And when that happens, it's almost like an exorcism. I've experienced myself many exorcisms through this process. I've received almost I'd say 15 or 16 sessions, and I've had traumatic energy just move through my body and no longer live in my body. We all have oxytocin. Everyone is producing oxytocin, and a lot of times we're using it just to survive.
Mm-hmm.
When you survive and realize you're not just in survival, you start to tap into more of that thrival energy, that creative energy, that beautiful why we're here energy. And it's a different experience in the body.
Yeah. And there's, the techniques with you are great. And this isn't exactly something new. People that have been doing years and years of meditation and getting deep into their nervous system where they're really allowing their breath or their awareness to go into the deepest aspects of themselves are touching into the vagal nerve and turning on that consciousness. However, we're learning as we're evolving. There's so many new techniques that are happening out in the world today, particularly in the United States, but also around the world, just like the station goes worldwide at UPNRN.
Yeah, and
We go
it's
very direct into it.
it's shamanic work. A lot of shamans know, they've been doing this work for thousands of years, and now it's coming to the Western world where the Western world needs it so much because of the way humans are living in constant state of doing and just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And as we release some of those programs, we get to find more ease, more grace. We get to feel our feminine energy, which is being able to receive the gifts of this world more often.
It's I had an incident the other night. I was driving home and a car veered into my lane very suddenly. Within, a matter of a split second, I was able to brake and avoid, but the accident. But I was, just that close to having an accident. And if 10 years ago, before I had done the parasympathetic / vagal nerve work, I would have been traumatized for hours and nervous and just like, oh my God, I can't calm down. And of course, I calmed down within a few minutes and was able to go home, drive home, go through my normal routine, get ready for bed without any of that because my nervous system was integrated.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and this is the work of the vagal nerve. And also it connects with all your internal organs.
100%.
So you're interacting with those things.
It's really cool. It actually goes into consciousness in a big way. And the reason it does is because when we talk about heart math, which is, a lot of the work that, Dr. Joe talks about and a lot of these amazing.
You mean Dr. Joe Dispenza?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the things is how do we bring consciousness in? How do we embody it from the inside out method, not the outside in method? And what that is creating a space in the body where our gut, our heart, and our brain create more coherence. And the more we're coherent, the more we're able to basically bring in our own I am self. A lot of times, our parents or a lot of influences in our life, we are trained and we have become parts of them unconsciously.
So what you're saying is your I am self really is I am connected to my deep core nervous system.
Yeah, your being. A lot of times, we talk to our family, we talk to these things, and we take on all these obligations. We take on all sorts of karmic imprints. And the more we get confident, the more we become embodied, the more we do the practices, it allows our body and our mind and our spirit and our soul to know when our intuition is online. And that's the gut health. That's the heart health. That's the duality mind that's not playing tennis up there and coming down, 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 down. And it's the journey from the head to the heart.
Yeah.
And that's it. The more we're heart centered, the more unconditional loving we are, the more giving we are. A lot of times we have all these different values that we want to share, but when we're not coherent, it doesn't actually get delivered. It's just inside.
And we could use a real estate term. I love to throw things together. How you create consciousness is like a real estate term: location, location, location. Where you put your intention in your body is where your consciousness is going to be fostered.
100%.
And so, if you're learning how to do that with your heart, is one step,
Hmm.
but you're also suggesting that you can just integrate your whole nervous system and have that calm all the time to be right in that core.
100%. There's a really cool movie, Avatar, that kind of shows what nervous system co-regulation looks like. That part in the movie where the being, that thing the animal being that you fly, when your back of your head
Woo!
connects to that thing and you're flying, it's like your body completely is free. And it's the
Mm.
same thing when you're in the womb. Before you're a butterfly coming out of the womb, you're a chrysalis becoming a being. And that's the parts, that's the prenatal, and all the energy that's being created during that time and space is a part of you. And a lot of times we don't know about this part. And as we do
Mm.
more of this child, development, we start to get more intimate with our own creation.
Mhm.
And that's the beauty, is like getting to know yourself,
Yeah.
and then having that self-care ritual allows you to share. So that my whole mantra is self-care, then share. I don't want to go out without a full cup. If I'm going out empty, I'm not really providing anything for the people I love. And it's really important that I show up.
Yeah. Out of your head, into your body, and let the heart be that communicator. With
100%.
that,
Yeah.
your heart can be full of light. And the best way that it's more authentic in that light is your nervous system is integrated in whole.
Yeah. 100%. And it's really cool. The fascia is like this. Every part of our being is fascia except bones.
Mhm.
So our nerves are running everywhere. And it's like the way trauma works. You never know how it actually happens. Sometimes we don't
Mhm.
even know we're in a trauma state. We could be operating from a traumatic state for our whole lives until we actually get met. And when we're met, that's when we get to feel it and process it. And a lot of times we're holding pain that we're not even aware of.
Mhm.
And as we become more aware of it, we process it, we start to find the joy. And it's like a newborn. When we're born again, our body has freedom. Our life has freedom. Our joints, our everything we do as we walk every day, we find the freedom in our stride. And it's like, okay, I'm here for it. I'm here to be in this earth and to share and to
Yeah.
love and to care. It's a different experience.
And it does start with childhood.
Mhm.
When we are born, our nervous system is very integrated and whole, and we're more like a being of light because we're from the other side, wherever we came from. Let's not get into a spiritual conversation about that. But children have that integrated nervous system. They're more in their parasympathetic nervous system.
Mhm.
And that's a lot what vagal nerve therapy is about, is learning how to activate the parasympathetic and have that as an active part. And that's very much what children can role model for us. And what does a child, what's important to them? Wholeness, love, fun, play, um, that we're all in this together, and that we can innately trust each other because we have a trust within ourselves.
100%. It's that dialing in of our source. Like, where do we source our energy from? Where are we sourcing it from? Is it coming from inside? Are we able to tap in deep into our roots? Are we able to let go of some of the trauma and the feelings that are not necessarily serving our
Yeah.
current life? As we let go and process, there's so much forgiveness for both ourselves and everyone around us. And that's part of it. We don't need to hold. Everyone wants to feel, and sometimes we go into these distortions, and as we release the distortions, we get more clarity, we get more
Mhm.
grace, we get more ease. And that's what Mother Earth is here to share us with. It's that part, nature.
Yes, yes. And I just wanted to just remind everybody that we are open for comments and questions. I think uh, um, we have ZD Ball here saying, uh, the more info I needed today to prepare for the next perfect treatment session I needed.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so, thinking of sessions, what's the session like with you when you do this work?
Yeah. So before a session, I make sure that I've done my work. So I don't come to a session without being completely regulated. And every morning I do a morning practice. I dance. I do qigong. I do breath work. I even do an ice bath and sauna, and I completely get my being and vessel clean and regulated so that I can hold space. And as I hold space, I basically I connect with my fascia. I connect with your fascia, and we co-regulate for a moment.
And fascia is right under your skin, and it's connected to your entire nervous system. Just
Yeah,
let people know.
right. And so as we do that, we go through these processes. There's certain points in the body, and as you become completely relaxed, the body starts to speak, and it actually starts to move energy, and some of the trauma starts to show up. And I have been taught these certain points where we actually put pressure and we help stimulate that, and it literally gets processed.
Wow.
And in that process, we continually do it. These points actually induce therapeutic doses of oxytocin.
Wow.
So as the oxytocin is flowing, you're not in the trauma state because you're feeling the love, you're feeling the safety, feeling the connection, and the nerves start to heal.
So you're doing something. I want to say it sounds like a little bit like a massage or acupuncture, but you're not using needles, of course.
Yeah, no, it's specific points that have been proven scientifically to actually help induce without re-traumatization, bring it up, and also process. So you're able to survive it.
Induce the oxytocins.
Mhm.
Okay.
So trauma is when we have a traumatic experience, our being doesn't know if we're going to survive. And it's still in the body. So when it shows up, when you are safe and held in that space and have all this oxytocin flowing, you're surviving it and you're processing it on a deep level. And that's when it literally, the body just shakes it out. Just like
Wow.
in trauma and tremor release exercises, we have tremors. And the tremors are a representation of the past pain. And
Yes.
as that shakes out, you shake it out.
Right, right. And it also tells the theory that we have it all inside of us. It's just repressed,
Mhm.
and you are opening it so it can actually become present again.
And create more space for more love because we're holding. When we're holding it, it's like we're living with it.
Mm.
Unconsciously, we're living with it. We're trying to process. Our body's constantly like a Xerox machine, bringing light in. And also, we rest at night. And it's in the quantum field that the healing happens. So we get into the quantum, and that's when this is the quantum healing that everybody needs in this world. It's not a device or a machine that can heal you. It's love. And that's the
Yes.
medicine.
And in this form of love, I mean, there's so many forms of love, but it's actually a neurological activation, an activation of light, an activation of something deep inside of us that's been held back or repressed. And Neil is able to pinpoint this with these techniques.
Mhm. If you are in Austin, tbmaustin.com. We've got, I think, 7 or 8 practitioners here locally, and they're all been trained and amazing practitioners. I've worked with all of them.
So what does TVM stand for?
Triple vagal method.
Okay, triple vagal method.
Yeah.
So somebody could Google that
Yeah.
and start to find information about that
Mhm.
wherever you are in the world.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, we have a lot of viewers in the UK, Israel, France, Scandinavia, Canada, and the United States. So you can find this information and begin your own healing process. It's funny, I've had a very different journey with this, but I call it parasympathetic nervous system. And I started a technique, in fact, kind of borrowed it from somebody and developed my own techniques, but was able to activate a nervous system right inside the spinal cord, like between your spinal cord and your heart. And I would meditate from my heart, the back of the heart, all the way down to my second chakra, right there. And I called it the original lifeline.
Mm.
And I find it extremely calm. And it was one of those most important tools I use to begin to function more in my parasympathetic nervous system,
Amazing.
which is what the spiritual masters and children both know, is that awareness.
You are developing vagal tone. So that means resilience to all the trauma, and that's how you're able to process it
Yes.
more.
And I'm not saying it to brag. I'm just saying it to people
okay to brag.
that
You got
it's
it.
okay. It's okay to brag, but there's a lot of ways to do this.
Yes, 100%.
And-
There's no one way. What I've known, I've done so many different things, and I've been a student of Bart's. I appreciate all of his gifts, and this thing that came into my lap, I was receiving the treatment, and it was like the first time that my brain, my being got activated in such a way that I was able to release so much deep pain that I had no idea I was carrying. And it literally activated me in a way that I knew that this method is something I wanted to bring to the world.
And so when you say deep pain, what does that mean?
Yeah, so I had pain in my body that I wasn't even feeling. I was disassociated from for so long. And then as I was able to release the layers of compensation, it started to show up more and more sessions, more and more layers of compensation got released.
So it wasn't physical pain, but it was more like energetic memories
Both.
and trauma and
Both.
things.
Physical, mental, spiritual, everything. It was process. And that's what the quantum does. It doesn't decipher. It's all of it. And sometimes we carry it in a physical form, emotional form, whatever it may be, it gets to show up and process.
And when we talk about quantum, just to give you a little definition, this would be anything that is in the tiny world. And I can't remember the numbers, but it's the microscopic world, basically, the space between the molecules, as we say.
Yep.
It's that small that we're interacting with and creating that impetus for change.
100%.
With that.
It's part of our evolution. So we've been given all these different pieces of our story. And as we piece the stories together, we get to know what our ancestors fought and what we don't need to do anymore. We are here to be here and to not dive into those stories and face battles that are nothing to do with our current state and time.
So you're saying that when you work with your nervous system, you're also working with your ancestry and your heritage of family traumas and things that you've not been able to resolve before by just being in your head.
That 100%. And it's like a lot of times, in cultures and where you're raised, certain programs that just get passed on. And we think and feel that, okay, our parents taught us this, that's the way they are, that's the way, it is. And as we release some of those things that are not serving the now time, we get to know what the quantum is for this present state. And that's the being really present. And the more vaguely toned you are, the more present you are, the less battles you're fighting, the less karmic entanglements and all these things that not necessarily are serving our soul. Yeah.
Very, very true. It's the inside world. I like to call it the space.
Yeah.
And just to remind everybody, you can contact Neil through the Third Eye meditationlounge.com, and that would be third as in 3RD. And also you can contact me at bartsharp.com and check out my website and see these wonderful books and downloads that I sell on my website. And you can also buy cacao and all of these amazing products that Neil has on his website. He has kind of main center in Austin, Texas, and he distributes throughout the United States, but also mails it anywhere in the United States, in the world, actually. I actually got stuff from France when I was there this past summer. And the French postal system was actually pretty quick.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you ever want to work with me personally, I only take on maybe 1 or 2 clients a month. And my website is thirdeyetonic.com.
Aha.
3RDEYETONIC.com. And I do a practice called alchemical integration, which incorporates everything I've learned over the last 12 years when it comes to meditation, concentration, contemplation, and also activating, the masculine and feminine energies within, finding the unity. And what third eye to me is being able to find the unity within the mind space between the basically so that's a pineal gland and pituitary gland. And once we find the light between the two, we're able to see from a different space. And I've been doing this for a while, where I can close my eyes and I can close my third eye or open my third eye. It's now, I've had that kind of capability after doing this practice for a while.
And it really begins a lot with going down into our nervous system, where you're very integrated into your vagal nerve, your second chakra, and your nervous system there, and working out those traumas. And then the third eye really starts to open up in ways that you never known.
100%. Yeah. And I've also studied Tantra in the most purest way. It's not a sexual practice. It's more of an activation of the muscles, and being able to heal some of the stuff that the collective as humans have all experienced. So being sovereign with our sexual energy allows us to be in creation, and it's a beautiful experience.
It is, and it's just about second chakra energies, and it's our basics of being. In other words, it's how we walk in the world, and we may say that, oh, that's the sexual energy, but it's also your power, your ability to have money, your intuition, your creativity, your vitality. And I always find that it has a relationship with anger and how we wield anger in the world. If we have a calm nervous system, we have a totally different relationship with anger. In other words, we can use it, but it doesn't wreck us. It's almost like my car wreck or my near auto incident. I was able to go around that guy and say, well, watch it, buddy. You almost had a very uncomfortable evening there. And that was it. There wasn't no flipping or getting the finger or getting mad or any of that, because the anger that is in the second chakra has been changed. And this is a nervous system interaction.
100%. I've also been in the process since I've done this training, and I love to create supplements, ways in which we can embody our body. And since then, I've been creating some things around how to heal the trauma when you're in a traumatic state, how to fast, how to bring more GABA in your brain, how to cool the nerves up in the head space.
So I got to ask, what have you created in relation to helping your trauma?
Yeah, so the cacao is a big part. It releases oxytocin, it helps you feel your heart, and it helps you kind of release this duality space. That's one. Another thing is we got the golden milk, which helps you.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. Bart loves our glowing relaxation. It's an amazing product. I myself have had lots of trauma. I broke my hips, was in a wheelchair for a year. I lost part of my finger. All sorts of stuff that I was playing out, old past lives that I didn't know I was in certain ways. And these supplements help me tune into my intuition, tune into my now space, and actually heal my joints. I'm a very active person. I can run, I can play tennis for hours. I've been able to heal my body. I lose 100 pounds and feel very strong. And I think that's really important to be able to process and actually embody it.
Because if we have trauma, we're always working to hold it in place. In other words, to repress it at some level. And we don't even know we're repressing it, but we're using tons of our innate power, this inner energy inside of us, to hold these traumatic places repressed and in place. Because they're just there. Our body would like to let go of them, but something in our system says, no, you can't. Maybe it's the lessons we need to learn from the trauma, and also our addiction we have to them by replaying them again and again and again. Now, I know Neil quite well, and he has learned his stories about what his life was. He's done a lot of the psychological, therapeutic work on an intellectual level. But then you come to the point that that doesn't get it all.
Hmm.
And you want to get it to a deeper level of being to where you're energetically and nervous system wise free of it.
100%.
And that's what we're really talking about here.
Yeah, it's so that it's like you can touch it and it can activate you, it can bring up stuff, but then how do we fully feel safe in letting it go?
Yes.
And some of these supplements really help with that. They're not drugs. They don't help you disassociate. In fact, they help you reassociate in a way that you feel confident that your being is going to survive. And when you
Yes.
know that your being is going to survive, you are willing and able, your consciousness wants to be free of it. And that's the turning of the leaf. It's like opening up the door. And in that
Exactly.
other side of trauma is so much more love, so much more connection, so much more peace, so much more happiness.
Because we're naturally connected to who we are as a child.
Hmm.
It's the same blueprint of the nervous system finally gets to come out, and we don't have to be childish and do silly things.
Hmm.
We just have this joy that feels wonderful.
Yeah.
And I just want to remind everybody that you are at Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, now on Roku. You can see us on television. You can also see us on Facebook, YouTube, or on the UPRN website. And we're so glad to have Neil Dumra here from Third Eye Meditation Lounge, and with the theme of superhuman living.
Hmm.
And one of the favorite things I always see at your store, because I have a routine of taking various things, but I always enjoyed the Silogy.
Yeah, the Shilajit. So Shilajit is something I've been taking for almost 12 years.
Could you spell that for everybody?
It's Shilajit, and we sell it on thirdeyecacao.com. And this stuff is life force energy in a bottle. It's literally humic and baltic acids that have been cultivated over thousands of years, and it's found in the Himalayan mountains. And it's like tar, it's a resin. And it's the only thing that's been known to go into the sacrum and help allow that kundalini life force energy, even the vagus tone, the vagal tone, activate. And it's minerals, it's food for your vagal tone.
And also, if you have problems with your colon, that could be diverticulitis or any sort of colon issue or digestion issue, or you're just extremely constipated or diarrhea, this stuff is amazing.
It's something I use when I fast. If I'm hungry, if I'm tired, it's minerals, and it's the most absorbable form of minerals on the planet.
Yeah, this is Silogy.
Shilajit. Yep.
Spell that again.
Shilajit. And I've made a formula called Theobroman, which has Shilajit in it. And this is a cacao that helps activating the masculine, the doing energy. Also has pine pollen, which helps create testosterone naturally. Has maca, which is an andropathogen that helps balance the hormones.
So how does maca work? I always hear that word, but I never really got it.
Yeah, maca works. It's kind of like an Amazonian ginseng. So it's like potent energy. It's energy, but it doesn't activate your heart or your brain. It activates your lower parts, so your sexual parts. But it does it in a way that creates balance and harmony. Women in Peru who've been taking it for years, they don't have menopause until they're 70 because their womb space is more integrated.
Wow.
Yeah, and for men, it actually helps with sexual energy and vitality. If you've had some trauma, it helps create more stability and helps you process.
Yeah, it really brings you back into the womb. And when you ever touch this stuff or drink it, I always feel like I'm just drinking a deep place in the earth.
Yeah.
Like pure earth energy. Like from one of the most precious places.
It is. Really, the Incas, they've been doing maca for thousands of years. Yeah.
Wow. This is wonderful. So we have about 15 minutes left or 10 minutes. And just anybody have any questions or just comments, please let us know. Because this guy is a walking encyclopedia of information.
I'm still a student. I'm still learning, and I love to share what I've experienced. And another thing I want to talk about when it comes to vagal tone that I've been creating a supplement around is NAD, which is a really beautiful thing that helps. It's actually helps activate the vagal tone and create presence. So when you're in a traumatic state and you're just bouncing around with anxiety, there's ways in which you can take some NAD. They have it intravenously, they have it in a nasal spray, they have it in a suppository, and this really helps develop that language. Your body starts to just activate it and find the presence naturally. It's a great tool. And I take it almost every other day. With the work I do and how much space I hold, it really helps me stay in my presence.
Wow. And it just gives you more of your own power in general when you start to take things that have such a pure resource. And this is part of what superhuman living is being able to find different products that are really come from some of the highest quality standards in plants and plant life. The difference between ceremonial cacao and like cacao that's served in chocolate bars, for example, is ceremonial cacao is actually still picked in the jungle.
Yeah, and the genetics of it. So there's actual genetics of ceremonial cacao, and unfortunately, some of the big corporations have genetically modified it over the last 30 years, 40 years, really, and brought a lot of it to Africa, where most of it's produced. And unfortunately, slaves and children and all sorts of things are happening where it's been exploited, just like a lot of amazing superfoods. And the way in which I've been creating Third Eye Cacao is to support the farmers, support the indigenous, and also support the original species. The way we keep it alive is by consuming it and by honoring the people who are creating it. And that's super important. If anybody wants to come visit the farms, we have opportunities. We're going in November to Guatemala to visit some of these women collectives, and you get to understand what ceremony is. And ceremony isn't about the cacao. It's about tuning into your nervous system of the jungle. And in the jungle, that's where the true nature exists on our planet, where it hasn't been monetized or indoctrinated or commercialized, and the soil is pure. There is no heavy metals. There's none of that stuff where can hurt us as humans.
And doing this in psychic work, I'm always fascinated with some of the more highly evolved plants in the world. And cacao is one of them. Other ones, I think the mushroom world, the mycelium network is another story. Also, roses. And we see these stories or hear these stories of roses that have been blessed by saints and various people that have these profound healing powers. And theoretically, of how I see that is those flowers have really connected to a world beyond this world. And that energy from that beyond world, which for roses seems to connect with an angelic plane. And the roses hold that energy. Then it's given to people and things happen, particularly if the person that's blessing those roses is a very blessed conduit of bringing that through. And it's the same thing with cacao, that it comes from a very special place within fairy worlds.
I want to speak a little bit about it.
Oh, you go ahead.
Okay, so I want to go back to mycelium. Without mycelium, especially the cacao we grow, the actual nutrients wouldn't be developed for the cacao. So it's an underground network that communicates, and the whole jungle is communicating. In fact, the cacao trees are planted by midges. They're these tiny bugs that pollinate. And so it's such a natural process. There's no forcing of anything. And that's why there's a different vibration. And
so the mycelium, we're talking about the mushroom network that goes through everything in the earth, is actively involved in the growth and development of cacao and the jungle itself.
Yes, 100%. There wouldn't be nutrient delivery without it.
Yes.
Literally, it's how the water and everything the trees survive is through the mycelium.
and those of us who are gardeners in the United States, or we live in the urban areas and we want to bring our yard back into a more holistic perspective, we want to start to bring in mycelium spores and stuff and mycelium-based products to reintegrate our garden to have more consciousness.
100%. It's we as humans wouldn't be alive without mushrooms. We are our gut and everything, and our whole brain is kind of a mushroom in certain ways.
Yes, yes, it is.
Yeah.
And so it's all about this connection. And when we're talking about higher states of being, maybe the first place to look is at the earth itself.
100%. Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So we have about 5 minutes, and just to say that we're on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Network on Roku, YouTube, Facebook, and this is Neil Dumra we have from Third Eye Meditation Lounge.com and Third Eye Elixirs.
Mm-hmm.
And I am Bart Sharp from bartsharp.com. Come check out my site and check out my newest book, which is called Magic Speaks.
Mm.
Now, to end up the show, is there any advice you could give somebody that wanted to jump into this?
Yeah, I do. I think the most important thing is in this world we live in, the whole collective world we live in over the last 400 or 500 years, with all the different ways in which humans started to create at a mass level, to stay in tune with your natural self, to get into nature, to find ways you can get into your body, whether it's walking or yoga or meditation, finding ways you can get more introduced to embodiment, and then finding a community. There's going to be so many communities where it's in community that we heal. It's in the interactions that we get to feel and be seen, and also see others and find compassion. And it's in the relations. It's all these different ways we can do that. One thing leads to another. One door opens another. And as we get more in touch with ourselves, even if we have, all sorts of interactions that may not be pleasant, it's in those mirroring that we get to see ourselves. And that's how we grow. And unfortunately, our world right now is in a lot of different ways in which we haven't been able to do that. But we have the internet. We have different teachings that you can look up. Even this video might be helpful. And trying to maybe get off of coffee, getting off of the stimulants that put you in your headspace. So finding the right things for you is an individual process, and I wish that we all can do that. It's an opportunity.
Yes, and to add to that, one of the biggest addictions in this society is sugar,
Mm-hmm.
and the more that you have products that nurture you at a deep level, you're going to give your body something it needs that makes overcoming your sugar habits much, much easier. And that's one of the toughest ones to deal with.
Yeah.
And so I found that doing these type of products, the green foods and various other things, and a friend of ours who has a wonderful mushroom product, will give a shout out to Limitless Mushrooms.
HighVibeMushrooms.com.
HighVibeMushrooms.com, where you can get a mushroom mixture that fulfills these nutrients that you may not be getting in your other foods. And therefore you can confront sugar addiction or coffee and all of these things with a new power.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of the things that we do at Third Eye is about detox, cleansing, removing density. So a lot of times we carry fungus, mold, heavy metals, all sorts of things that our environment has been kind of putting into the foods and in all sorts of ways. And the more we start to release some of these things from our body, the easier it is to face everything.
Yes.
And that's part of the process.
And that's part of the process also with like multimedia or
Yes.
media out there that is so traumatizing with the most inflamed stories. If we're grounded into our stories, we don't resonate with those stories so much because they're no longer our reality. We feel totally different. And so we start to see the craziness as, well, I just don't want to play. That's not really true for me.
Yeah, and that is a stepping stone to understanding what relation shapes. I don't call it relationships. Ships that pass are relationships, but shapes that are created in the we space become more nourishing, nurturing, comfortable, loving, transformative, and growing. And we want our relationships to grow. That's how the shape becomes a heart. That's how
Yes.
it becomes a safe place for love to exist.
Indeed, and that's ultimately where we're all going. So thank you so much,
I
Neil.
love you, Bart.
Love you too, man.
It's been great.
It's been an adventure. This guy knows so much, so you can check him out at thirdeyemeditationlounge.com and check out all of this stuff. If you're in Austin, come by and say hi, or just send us information through the internet. And so glad you came.
Thank you. This is a beautiful home. Bart's an amazing person, amazing coach, someone I relied on a lot in my process of releasing a lot of trauma. And I trust this man a lot. And he's been a savior to me, truly. I appreciate you.
Neil.
Thank you.
And we thank you again for tuning in. And next week, we're going to have Jenna Love with Love and Relationships. So join us next week. Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network on Roku, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
See you soon.